The story of the life of Chuck is actually the story of three of America's greatest creators playing against type. You got Stephen King, Walt Whitman, and Mike Flanagan. It's a movie that I describe as special, and I can count on one hand the movies that have that description for me. Today we're going to recap the movie. We're going to talk a little bit about the journey it took from page to screen, and we're even going to talk about Walt Whitman's poem that inspired the whole thing. There's a lot going on here, from haunted cupolas to major connections to King's other work. So get comfortable. We're going to be here a while. And like the movie itself, we're going to be covering the whole thing in reverse chronological order, starting with the movie that Mike Flanagan and his friends made. Before we start, please take a second to follow me over on Twitch at www.twitch.tv/NICKYJAMESTV, where we are live every day and have been since February of 2021. Come through. So we open on Marty Anderson, who's teaching Walt Whitman to a bunch of little assholes who were looking at their phones, when suddenly this one girl's like,
California, there was another earthquake. A huge chunk's gone from Santa Barbara to Fresno.
It's fucking crazy.
Into the ocean just like that.
All right.
Marty tries to check it for himself, but he has no internet. And then we jump to every teacher's favorite night, parent-teacher conferences. All these parents here can talk about is the crumbling world around them. The internet's out, but it's not that simple. Even when the sites do work, their information is wrong or the punctuation's all wrong. But Marty here just wants to stay on task. And that's something you're gonna notice is a theme for Marty. He treats these conferences as if the world isn't systematically falling apart around them.
I can't. But Brian can still prepare for class. I mean, the library's still here, internet or not.
This part here, played by David Dastmalchian. Oh, and if you haven't seen Late Night with the Devil, what are you doing, dude?
Get some help here. Now!
Anyway, they talk about how Pornhub is down and share an honest and funny moment here.
Pornhub's down. Did you know that, Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, I had noticed that.
Oh, fun fact here. A little difference between the book and the movie. In the book, the novella, it specifically mentions that nobody brings up Pornhub. But in the movie, they do. So, kind of hard-hitting research from Nicky James. Now, I wasn't sure exactly what Pornhub is on account of me not being a filthy sinner, so I looked it up and I spent a few days there for research for this video. Subscribe to my Patreon so I can stay home and do more research. Then we're treated to shots from 24-hour news channels, which are just the best at showing you the decay of our world. Oh, and the Italian news reporter here is played by Lauren Lavera from the Terrifier series, so that's cool. You got flood and drought and fire and looting, so it's basically just California at any given time. By the way, our narrator here is none other than Swan Ronson. So, look, I don't know, everyone feels the need to point this out, so I'm just doing it so you don't yell at me like, oh, you didn't even mention Nick Offerman, dare you greasy-haired fuck. We see this mega congested intersection where Marty is waiting in his car and listening to some Gimme Some 11 by the Spencer Davis Group. Oh, hey look, I see you, Christine, hiding there. Anyway, Marty notices this billboard on top of the bank of this guy with the scar on his hand. Weird. And the billboard says, Charles Krantz, 39 great years. Thanks, Chuck. Weird. We move on to the hospital where NPR is telling us that with all the people migrating east out of California, that Nevada, of all places, is now one of the most populous states in the union, which is cool, I guess. Nevada's got a lot of space and, sand.
I don't like sand.
We meet Felicia Gordon, and she is stressed. Turns out, with everything going on in the world, people have just been committing mass sewer slide, and her coworkers have started calling themselves the Sewer Slide Squad because of how many sewer slides there are going on. So that's pretty awful, but not as awful as sitting through the Sewer Slide Squad movie, am I right? DC movies suck.
Blah, 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 blah.
Her coworker, who I'll call Rahul Kohli, a Mike Flanagan regular, comes in ready for the hot goss. I mean, just look at him.
She left.
her ex. Remember Pedro? He showed up, and I don't know what he said to her, but she walked out holding his hand.
He's poised for the tea. Give him the tea lady from Jumanji. People seem to be just dropping their lives, and not just in the sewer slide way, but like leaving their families. In fact, David Dastmalchian in the first scene brought this up.
It's just me now. His mom, she left, I don't know where. So that's been happening a lot more, I hear. People just ghosting.
People are just going to what is comfortable, I think. The point of this conversation is to show that Felicia believes that way more people are getting back together than are splitting up.
I mean, do you think marriage rates are up or divorce rates are up?
Marriages.
So it's kind of like Chekhov's Back Together. Back to Marty, who was watching an old, cozy Technicolor film and not engaging with the end of the world. Good for him. More people should do that. But then Felicia Gordon calls him, and he answers the phone, and she's all like,
Hi.
all right, let me tell you. Fellas, when a girl calls you late at night, and she's been drinking wine, and she goes,
Hi.
that is not the time to say start talking about Carl Sagan and Cosmos. Dog, this is why she left you. She was giving you the clear signals.
So, do you have any thoughts on what you might want to do tonight?
Oh, I don't know.
And you start talking about Carl Sagan? Anyway, she somehow doesn't hang up, but instead asks him how his day was. He goes on about the parent-teacher conferences feeling like pissing in the wind. Then Marty looks up at this locked door in his home. Weird. Marty says,
That sucks.
then starts talking about Sagan again. He explains the cosmic calendar, which is basically compresses our galaxy's entire history into this 365-day calendar. And our existence as humans doesn't even come into play on that calendar until 10:30 p.m. on December 31st, meaning that all of time and space exists in the eons before 10:30 p.m. and humans they weren't even there for that. And that means that not only is my existence meaningless and pointless, but yours is, and the whole context of the universe is. Are you panicking yet? Okay, I need a breather. Let's take a second to talk about the music. The Newton brothers have done the score for most of, if not all of Mike Flanagan's work.
Detachment was probably like our big break with Adrian Brody. That kind of shifted and changed the way we were perceived or noticed, or I don't know. I felt like we were always writing. We went on to do a series with a bunch of different films, different directors and producers, and then we met with Mike Flanagan, and he did a movie called Oculus, and that kind of blew up in the horror genre.
And it just works. One of my favorite things as a fan is when someone uses the same troupe of actors and crew. It gives this cohesive and familiar vibe to all of their work. And not just actors, but cinematographers, composers, editors, the directors, they all get to grow together. And you see this all the time with how John Carpenter would work with Tom Atkins, Jamie Lee Curtis, Dean Cundy, Tommy Lee Wallace, and more than just one film. Tim Burton was always using Danny Elfman, Danny DeVito, and Caroline Thompson, and Quentin Tarantino is always using feet. Fucking feet. Now, we've heard in the past that the soundtracks to Hill House, Bly Manor, Usher, and Midnight Mass, that the Newtons understand how to make beautiful and gothic scores that just drip with lament and sorrow. And even if you're not into the whole religion thing, the choir and production on the voices for the hymns in Midnight Mass are some of the most beautiful vocal compositions I've ever heard.
Abide with me, fast falls the eventide. The darkness deepens, Lord, with me abide.
But for the life of Chuck, they needed to find something different. And this score proves the truth about how much a truly great score can elevate a film. The dreadful strings and vibrato choirs of Hill House and the like were not gonna work here. And what they did was they kept it relatively simple with key of C piano, long legato pads, and strings that just breathe. The score reflects the movie's view on the sanctity of life. And I would give anything for whoever is in charge of this, release it on vinyl. You are harming me by not releasing it on vinyl, and you will be held legally responsible, maybe.
Has that ever happened to you?
So release the Life of Chuck soundtrack on vinyl. Oh, hey, be my first ever Patreon member so I can stay home and write emails all day to whoever's in charge of that. I'll do the work for us. There are so many beautiful layers in this that you're not gonna hear them all the first time around, or at all, if you're listening with the film's dialogue over it. So release the soundtrack on vinyl, please. Love you.
Okay, I love you, bye-bye.
Okay, back to the recap. Marty says something really important next. He goes,
Maybe all this is happening as the cosmos burps out its last breath.
Now that Marty has info dumped on Felicia, he wants out of this phone call, yo. So he's like, I got some papers to grade. He doesn't. And he tells her he won't drink hard liquor. He does. And he turns on the TV and sees more news about the end of the world. This is exactly why I don't watch the news.
To say their final goodbyes to this fallen Louisville police officer, D.D. Mangudu.
He does what I and you all should do and just puts on an old movie instead. By the way, here he's watching CoverGirl from 1944, which stars Rita Hayworth, and that's gotta be some kind of intentional connection, because we know the Shawshank Redemption was called Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption. That's gotta be intentional, right? Right as he's getting into that, another goddamn Charles Krantz ad comes on, starring beautiful Carla Gugino's beautiful voice. Then all of TV goes out. And that is one of the many reasons you should stick to physical media. It's just better. Next, we see Marty leaving his house, presumably the next morning, and he runs into Stu from Scream.
And can I wear the Scream mask, the mask from Scream, when I do you from behind?
I really enjoy this scene, and it's mostly thanks to Mike Flanagan's hands-off directing style. Because of this, Matthew Lillard gets to play this scene in the way his acting instincts tell him to. When I first read this, I definitely did not read the scene this way. The audiobook certainly doesn't interpret it this way either, but Matthew Lillard as an actor interprets Gus Wilfong's dialogue here in such an interesting way. He's delivering this apocalyptic news like he just saw the gosh darndest thing. It's really interesting to watch, and I'm glad Mike Flanagan doesn't get too involved and he just lets the actors act. Gus updates Marty on the California situation, and it is not good. Apparently, only 10% of Northern California is still California, and Gus just starts reminding Marty of all the things.
I mean, they're saying that 20% of Northern California is probably means like 10%, but the food producing regions are gone. In the Midwest, turning to charcoal in Florida, that's like all the food producing regions in the country just gone. The same thing in Europe. When it's face time, there's a million people there. They're saying the blind pike, yeah. And the bees, I mean, we're trouble a decade now, but they're completely gone. I mean, there's a couple hives around South America, but they know how you
And Marty's like, dude, I gotta go. I want to take a minute here to talk about how Mike Flanagan does diverse casting. And I think it's interesting. My theory, that I'm sure I'll poke a bunch of holes in while researching this, is that if a character is not given a race by the author, then he will use that opportunity to allow diverse casting without breaking the narratives. Anyway, Andrea here confirms that she too saw the billboard for Chuck Krantz that's on top of her bank, but she has no idea who Charles Krantz is.
I don't know Charles Krantz.
She doesn't want to talk. She just wants to go home. Oh, here we also see a businessman dropping his briefcase. I think that's foreshadowing. I mean, you tell me when we get there, because remember, Rahul Kohli said the doctor dropped his pager and walked out. Marty goes back to Shaggy, who goes on a pretty beautiful and sad tirade about how it's all just falling apart. He goes through the 5 stages of grief in about 20 seconds. It's pretty beautiful, actually.
This is the end of everything. The waiting, I think that's the hardest part.
Remember that. Their conversation is interrupted as Gus looks up into the sky and sees an airplane skywriting. Thanks, Chuck. They both know how they haven't seen something like that since they were a kid. And they just kind of sit there and marvel at it.
Gotta go see that Marvel tonight.
Next, we see Felicia walking into work and there's sirens and chaos and just everything's going crazy. And she stops to gawk at all this pro-Chuck propaganda. Everybody is thanking this Chuck guy. She arrives at work late, where her coworker tells her that the doctor is gone and all the beds are empty. Everyone is just left. The doctor just dropped his pager and left. But not only that, the heart rate monitor is going off at 75 BPM. But wait, there's more. Every heart rate monitor in the hospital is going off at 75 BPM and no one is connected to them. When Rahul Kohli catches the leaving bug, he goes,
I might want to get out of here. I might want to go home. I don't think I need to be here anymore.
We go back to Marty, who is acting like me 10 years ago when Reddit would go down and I would just instinctively check Reddit to see the status of Reddit. He gives up on his TV and tries to call Felicia, but then, oh no, all phone service is out. He goes outside and he does that thing that we all do where we think that holding the phone 1.5 feet higher in the sky will fix all cell phone reception issues. It doesn't work. So he lets go. Marty decides to walk over to Felicia's house. On the way there, he runs into this nice older man who is emptying a pipe on the sidewalk. This man, Sam Yarborough, was taking pictures of this huge sinkhole and he thought that maybe one of the news stations would be interested. But they're all off the air now, so they amuse themselves over a banner thanking Charles Krantz. Who is this guy? These two men decide to hoof it together for a while. During their walk, Sam drops some major trust me bro facts.
My math is good.
I'm sorry. Saying that the Earth's rotation is slowing down and that while mankind has destroyed our planet, what we've done does not even matter compared to the great clock of the universe, their universe. Its time is running out. But he also says,
Man, math can do a lot of things. I mean, math can be art, but it can't lie.
We are treated to this gorgeous shot of Harvest Acres, and this is where Sam and Marty part ways. And this is a good time to bring up the performance of, I'm sorry, I'm gonna butcher so many names today, Chiwetel Ejiofor? He delivers so many of his lines in the softest, most beautiful way. I don't know what else there is to say about it other than I'm enthralled by it, and I appreciate it, and all the performances in this. So much of the magic comes from the tiniest bits of line delivery or even facial acting. Oh, speaking of which, I know I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but we will get to Pocket Queen because she steals the show. This joyful moment of human interaction ends as Marty walks up the road, and he must have been walking forever because when he gets there, that next shot, it is dark, dark. A little girl comes skating up the street, and thank you, Mike Flanagan, for continuing to cast Violet McGraw in things. It's been great watching her grow as an actor over the years, and even though her role in this is minimal, it's still great to see her. Oh, hey, join my Patreon so I can feed my daughter. Look at her, she's cute. While he's talking to Violet about fucking cookies or whatever, all the power goes out, like all of it. And this wasn't some soundstage or CGI or something. They actually shut down a portion of the Alabama power grid to get this shot. I really appreciate the practical effects used in this movie. Speaking of which, ghostly blue plasma images of Chuck suddenly appear in every window on the street. And again, you might think this is digital fuckery. Nope.
Nope. Just Chuck Testa with another realistic mount.
The production team hung TVs up in the windows of every home and physically played images of Chuck. Now, I wonder if actors find this method more fun to work with and engaging, or this method.
Having to believe something that's not really there.
And there's nothing behind the camera.
Marty goes, we both need to get out of here, and tells her to go home and be with her parents. He says it like he knows things might be reaching a conclusion. Marty finally arrives at Felicia's house, where they embrace, and Felicia says,
I think it's almost.
I think it's devastating how she says this in the same way you would tell someone to come to the hospital because grandma's about to pass. She leads him to sit down beneath the stars as a strange beep permeates the space they're in. We cut to a man. His heart rate monitor is clocking his heart at 75 BPM. His wife and son are by his side. His heart rate monitor crossfades us back to Marty as they walk to these lawn chairs and sit under the brightest night sky you've ever seen. Marty and Felicia share a moment together in wonder and awe at the universe as Marty points out constellations. But then Felicia points out the North Star, who we all know is self-conscious, and it just deletes itself from the night sky? Felicia, what are you doing? The stars start deleting themselves by the dozens, then the hundreds, then the thousands at a time, and they both feel this immense weight of the world ending.
I'm scared.
This next part really hits me harder than anything else in the movie as Chuck's wife Ginny gives him permission to let go.
It's okay, honey. You're gone. You're gone.
Just to think of the bravery and grace that it takes. I'm a married man with 3 kids, and I don't know if I could display that much grace in this situation. It's harrowing to see. The son says
39 years.
But Ginny corrects him with
39 great years.
And if it's not abundantly clear to you by now what's going on, like it wasn't to me, everything that we've seen here in this first act is taking place inside of the world that Chuck has created in his mind throughout his life.
A dimension of mind.
We'll definitely be getting into more detail about this soon, but these people aren't random, just know that. The song Gimme Some Lovin' crescendos in the background diegetically, meaning the characters are also hearing it, not just us the audience. As the stars explode out of existence and time and space are coming apart, Marty and Felicia lock eyes as Marty says,
I love you.
And that's it. Chuck Krantz dies in his hospital bed, surrounded by his family, and the entire universe he's created in his mind goes with him, snuffed out by the unfair and unrelenting onslaught of death. Act 2 is called Buskers Forever, and this scene is not only the first thing they shot for the movie, but it's also the centerpiece for the whole thing. They shot this at the OWA Entertainment Complex in Foley, Alabama over the course of 4 weeks, hiring hundreds of extras. We're introduced to Taylor Frank as she's getting set up to do some busk drumming downtown. We are going to finally get to talk about Taylor Gordon. Her performance in this was captivating, and I don't mean just the drumming performance. Her facial acting and delivery were so good. I'm glad Mike Flanagan hired her, even though in the book, her character is a male. And as far as how she got here goes,
I really do believe that everything that has been put in front of me so far was ordained by God. Like, I think it was just something to do with his timing and also my role and what specific role he wanted me to play in a certain scenario.
the light that shines outward from her is warm, and it's a place you just want to be. Here's how she got the part and how she shaped the sound for her piece.
I got an email one day, and I believe I was sitting right here on this couch when I read it. Hey, have you ever scored for film before? Which the answer to that question is yes, but not extensively. And also, have you ever acted before? And the answer to that question was no, okay? Besides maybe a school play or something. I had never been in a film or acted or even thought about acting. And so I answered the questions and they asked if I would be interested in doing so. And I said, yeah, why not? Ended up on a Zoom call maybe 2 days later. And I believe it was with the casting director and the director of the film and a few other members of the team putting the film together. And it wasn't really like registering to me yet that this was like a real film. I don't know. I was kind of like thinking, I was a little bit skeptical if I'm being honest. I was thinking like, oh, okay, this is like some like random film. This will be like a cool experience like that I could say I did. You know, just to get my feet wet. You know, I was just thinking or equating it to that it would just be some sort of like one-off sort of situation. I had a concept or an idea of at least a motif. So I thought of all the movies that contain dance numbers and what I could remember about them, like West Side Story, like da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I think of Stomp and like The Lion King and Blue Man Group, and I just started thinking of like different catchy rhythms that would stick with me if I were a listener. And the one that I came up with immediately is actually while the synopsis of the story was being told to me, I thought of this motif, and it was
Choreographer Mandy Moore, no, not that one, and her worked together on bringing the piece to a place that was realistic for both the drummer and the dancers, and they only had 2 weeks to do it. This was all a collaborative effort with the Newton brothers also being involved. They then flew the whole team to London to practice with Tom Hiddleston, where it seems like everything had this summer camp vibe. From there, everyone, including Loki, flew to Alabama to shoot the dance number in only 2 days. The film crew took this brand new drum kit and aged it up like 20 years overnight using movie magic. They shot the dance number over and over and over again and boiled it down into the one scene that we get. I just wanted to take a second here to highlight Taylor's performance because it's in line with performances we see from Chiwetel Ejiofor, Benjamin Pajak, Kate Siegel, Mark Hamill, and seriously everybody in this movie. There's something special here, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the expressions of pure joy or the fact that we're seeing somebody's life pass before us. There's something special here, and that's not a word I throw around lightly with movies. Even Taylor gets it.
Yeah. You can already tell this is extremely special. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is not normal. This movie is actually important. This movie is actually extremely relevant and necessary. And an important message for people to always remember in their lives.
So let's get back on track. Taylor's all set up and she starts grooving, trying to find the vibes. Then we meet Janice Holiday and she's going through a breakup.
Motherfucker!
And things are not going well.
Fucking bullshit!
But she's trying.
Fucking sucks!
Sort of.
Fucking really?
I'm sorry. We get back to Chuck, who's here for a Bankerman conference, and he's grabbing some coffee and he's just chilling between conference. As he's enjoying his afternoon, he hears Taylor's busking. As he walks towards her, Taylor decides to troll him with rhythm, and she feels the evil coursing through her, and it feels good, yeah. Instead of just walking on by now, Chuck stops and does what we've seen so many do so far. He lets go. He starts tapping at the air, and we see this single frame of an older lady doing the same hand motion. Weird. They then look at each other the way my dog and I do when she brings me a ball and I lift it high in the air over my head, and then it is on. As Loki is getting down, we see Janice coming around the corner. She stops and looks on and just can't help but make the moment about herself as she starts working her own magic. She's a little hesitant, but Taylor helps out with it, and they tear up the dance floor for the next 3 minutes. Loki stops because of this headache, but they finish tearing it up to a thunderous applause from the onlookers.
I don't know.
This group of newfound friends tears down the kit together and they drive to a spot and just hang for a while because...
Today, it's magic.
Taylor shares her take with her new friends as Chuck's head starts acting up yet again. Taylor and her coworker part ways with the group and leave off with a big group hug. It's beautiful. Moments like these are kind of what this movie's all about. We then see Chuck and Janice sharing a sunset walk as Janice trauma dumps about her boyfriend and Chuck just listens. He then tells her,
"You got a bright sunbeam in front of you and you're gonna step right into it, I can tell."
And this is a really nice moment of human connection. Look, I know the movie says that he was scrupulously faithful to his wife, but would you be cool if you found out your man shared a life-changing moment and dance with this smoke show before going on a nice sunset walk? I don't know, man. Maybe I'm projecting. He then mentions how the situation sucks.
Sucks.
Hey, we heard that earlier.
That sucks.
I guess it was just one of those many things that made up Chuck's internal universe. She thanks him for the dance, and they part ways. Chuck sees a familiar little girl coming towards him as she passes a familiar man drinking coffee. Chuck stops to wonder why he stopped and why he started to dance. And then Ron Swanson drops some heavy reality on us.
Later, he'll lose the ability to walk. Never mind dancing with little sister on the promenade. Later, he'll lose the ability to chew food. Later, he'll forget his wife's name. Later, he'll lose his grip on the difference between waking and sleeping, and enter a land of pain so great, he will wonder why God made the world. What he will remember occasionally is how he stopped and dropped his briefcase and began to move his hips to the beat of the drums. And he will think, that is why God made the world. Just that.
We now travel back in time to see a 6-year-old Chuck, played by the Flanagans' adorable son, Cody. Become a member on Patreon so I can feed my adorable son. He's playing with trains and he's making crashing noises and cheering, which seems insensitive, as the narrator tells us his parents and his unborn sister were killed in a car crash after skidding across a well-hidden patch of black ice.
Ouch. That sounds exactly like something black ice would do.
He now lives with his grandparents, Luke Skywalker, and, okay, look, Mike Flanagan's streak of casting hot grandmas just continues. We see the sad aftermath of quiet dinners and just this all-encompassing sadness. Grandpa handles his sadness with booze and math, which sounds like hell. And Bubby here is just having a hard time finding joy in life. She loves cooking and music, but everything just seems bland and
flavorless.
But as it does, time begins to heal all wounds, and we jump a few years forward to see 10-year-old Chuck spying on his grandma as she's grooving and cooking. You see, Bubby likes rock and roll while she cooks. And when I think of rock and roll, I think of, hold on, let me check my... Wang Chung's dance hall days. Why can't grandma cook while listening to Samson like my grandma did? In the montage that follows, we learn how Chuck learned to dance. It's another beautiful moment of joy driven by human interaction. By watching movies like CoverGirl and all that jazz and practicing with his grandma, he becomes like a little Fred Astaire. But don't look at the boobies! The narrator tells us about how Chuck's grandparents' house became his house. All of it but one room. The cupola on the roof. And hey, that looks familiar. Grandpa Skywalker is a chill-ass dude unless you go into his cupola. Chuck knows there's some bullshit going on up there because his grandparents are giving him different reasons as to why he can't go up there. His grandpa says,
nothing up there because of that rotten floor, and the only thing you can see through the windows is the shopping center.
And his grandma says,
because the floor isn't safe, and you might go right through it.
So one night before Chuck's 11th birthday, he's hanging out with Pep, who is wasted, and watching Cosmos. Remember that, by the way. Luke's getting hammered, and Chuck, instead of prodding, he just waits. And like the narrator says,
drinking is not good for secrets.
And Grandpa lets it slip.
If you went up there, you might see a lot more than you wanted. I haven't been up to that damn cupola half a dozen times.
'Cause the floor's rotted?
'Cause it's full of ghosts. Jeffrey's boy was a month later. Henry Peterson. That took longer. Because of your Bubby, Chucky. Your sweet Bubby. And the bread.
Bubby comes back from the neighborhood gossip's house, and Chuck immediately rats out Grandpa Skywalker. What the hell, Chuck?
Who's Henry Peterson, Zadie?
Bubby is pissed, and Grandpa is shamed. Bubby kicks Grandpa out of the house to go get some pancake mix.
You ain't got no pancake mix.
It's for tomorrow morning before going back inside. And you can see here that she really wants to see what Chuck knows. only getting Chuck's attention when she herself mentions the ghosts first. Chuck asks if there are ghosts in the cupola, and Grandma craftily answers his question with a question. I see you, Grandma.
And I see you. I see you and I hear you at all times because I am an omniscient being.
And then Chuck is like, I am the one who prods, and comes back with, well, who was the Jeffries boy? Which terrifies Bubby. She says, that fool died when he got hit by a car. After fessing up to that, she says,
And if your grandpa says he saw it before it happened, he's mistaken. He just drinks too much.
And blames it on the drinking. But our boy Chuck has a plan. He's going to take Bubby's muffins to Mrs. Stanley's house and press her for the information on the people who died after Grandpa saw them in the cupola. And Vera, played by Heather Langenkamp, is more than happy to oblige. She doesn't just spill the tea, she goes full Boston Tea Party. She's like, your dad has back cancer maybe? And Henry Peterson went down to the sewer slide and his wife was banging some dude?
Vera said that?
And she keeps going until she realizes she's talking to a 12-year-old, but doesn't matter. Information acquired. We move on to Miss Richards, who is played by Kate Siegel. And look, I'm not one to swoon after another man's wife, but... who is failing to teach these kids the same Walt Whitman poem we heard at the beginning of the film. 1855's Song of Myself. The only person paying attention here is Chuck, who approaches her after class and asks for clarification.
What does he mean when he says, I am large, I contain multitudes?
What's in there between my hands? All the people you know?
I guess.
Just the people you know? Everything you see. Everything you know. The world, Chuck. Planes in the sky, manhole covers in the street. Every year that you live, that world inside your head will get bigger and brighter and more detailed and complex. You will build cities and countries and continents, and you will fill them with people and faces, real and imagined. You understand? Don't stop there. You fill the whole thing with everyone you ever meet, everyone you ever know, everyone you ever just imagine. It'll be a universe. A whole universe right between my hands. You contain multitudes.
As she breaks down the whole meaning of the poem and the movie and the book, this is important. Movies need to tap into something universal and relatable, whether that's like fear of the dark or fear of outsiders or fear of rich white people taking over your body and plummeting you into a dark unknown forever and ever and ever and ever, right? Every single person watching this scene can relate to the idea that we build these worlds in our own heads, full of real and imagined people and places. And the older we get, these worlds just get bigger and bigger, but one day we die. And the worlds and universes we built in our own minds are snuffed out with us. When an old man dies, a library burns down. But then Chuck is like, yo, what if your universe hits a well-hidden patch of black ice?
For the record, black ice never asked to be out here.
And dies, then what? Like, what's poetic about that? And the teacher doesn't have an answer for that, so she just says, now get out of here before you ask more follow-up questions I can't answer. And as Chuck walks out of her classroom, he passes another room. And this is where it all eventually clicked for me, on like my second watch, because I'm an idiot. We see Marty Anderson, the subject of the third act, sitting at his desk working, and Chuck doesn't even have any meaningful interaction with this character aside from one exchanged line of dialogue later. But even this seemingly insignificant face lived an entire life inside of Chuck's internal universe, even marrying and divorcing Felicia. This character that we spent the entire third act with is nothing but a passing figure in Chuck's life. So Chuck had a pretty sweet summer right up until Bubby died. And we even get a director cameo. The house is back to being a sad factory, and Grandpa is going hard on the math and booze, like extra hard. And Chuck heads to the store to go buy some diabetes, where the clerk is reading The Bridges of Madison County, which, Hey, it's a book about ordinary people that contain whole universes inside of them and even alternate unlived lives. I see you, Mike Flanagan. I see what you're doing, dog.
And I see you.
Chuck asks the clerk to see where the old lady died recently, and she has a very appropriate reaction.
It's a little creepy, kid.
But then he's like, oh yeah, well she was my grandma, now don't you feel like a asshole? We go back to Grandpa, who is passed out drunk on meth, and Chuck seizes the opportunity to steal Pep's keys and head to the cupola. He opens the door just long enough to see inside when Grandpa force throws him down the stairs. Before closing the door though, he sees something horrible. He angrily takes the keys back from Chuck, but is immediately awash with Jewish grandpa regret after seeing the look on Charlie's face. Our next scene takes us to the next school year. It's September 1990, and Chuck sees the flyer for Twirlers and Spinners and decides that he would in fact like to both twirl and or spin. He heads into the class taking place in the gym, and it's hosted by Bev Keane. No, kid, get out of there. She's gonna poison your dog, no! Evil Incarnate here introduces herself as
the dance monster. Nothing? All right.
And at least one kid has realized the grave mistake he has made and tries to bounce, but Argus, the Greek giant over here, is like,
No, no, no. Back, Mr. Mulford. You are mine now.
We see a montage of the teacher showing them various dances, all of which Chuck knows, except samba?
Samba.
Don't know that one.
Like, why samba? I don't get that. Is that because he's Jewish? Do Jews samba? Because he's so good at dancing, why would he not know that? I don't know, help me understand that. The dance monster pairs him up with all the chicks that can't dance, and he's cool with it because sometimes she lets him dance with mega cutie Kat McCoy. And not only does he think she's a cutie Tuesday, she is the best dancer of all the girls and a whole foot taller than he is. The two of them have a lot of fun, dancing together even though she's dating professional shitbird Dougie Wentworth. The dance monster is over it and calls for a free dance, where Chuck shows cutie McCoy how to moonwalk, impressing even the dance monster. They all have so much fun that Twirlers and Spinners lets out a half hour late that day. After class, Kat and Chuck are walking out of school when Kat is like, we should do a dance together at the upcoming school dance, but not as a date, because she's going out with professional shit-stained Dougie Wentworth. Chuck isn't sure because he's sensitive about his height, but she's like, I got you, dog. Chuck loves the shoes, even though they're a little big, but yet in another beautiful moment of joy brought on by human interaction, they all help him and they stuff the shoes with
TV for my bunghole.
And now the floor feels like ice.
The floor feels like ice. Good scratches.
And then Zadie tells Chuck, look kid, dancing is sick and all, but have you ever heard of math? Now that's tight. Math is tight. And then Chuck's like,
but it's boring.
But then Grandpa's like,
you might want to try Math League after school. I did it.
Leaving Chuck feeling like,
I'm doing Twirlers and Spinners.
And he says,
you're more likely to be drafted by a major league sports team than to make a real living as a dancer.
So get fucked, Chuck. Fuck your dream of becoming a dancer. You'll never marry Cutie McCoy, and that's just it. You're gonna grow up and do math and then die. The end. Now that Grandpa has destroyed his love of dance, it's time for Chuck to head to the dance, where Kitty Cat here is really excited to show everyone their moves. But thanks to Darth Grandpa, Chuck doesn't want to dance anymore, which just kind of breaks her heart.
Maybe let's wait for a better song.
The dance monster comes over and is like, dang, fool, what happened? I thought you were gonna get down. That's embarrassing, damn dog. And he lies about his leg before she gives him some advice I wish I would have heard back then.
None of that out there really means anything. It's all just a scrimmage practice.
But also, she's like, tell her the truth that you're a coward, dog. Who cares?
She can take it.
Chuck walks outside for some air where he sees a shooting star. He takes off his glasses and he's like, let's go fuck this dance up, dog. He goes in, he takes Kat's hand, and they do the cheesiest and cutest little dance number while Kat's boyfriend, Dougie Wentworth, looks on all pissed off. Even his homies are like, Damn, dog. Guess you should have taken twirlers and spinners with your lady, Dougie. Before they wrap up their dance, we see Marty and Felicia. Hey, that's cool. So I guess they were probably even together in real life, right? They wrap up their super cute dance and she gives Chuck a kiss on the cheek. And like I said, even Doug's homies are like, they take their bow and the narrator informs us that future Chuck had lied to his wife about the scar on his hand. He told her that Dougie Wentworth, professional shit stain, pushed him into a chain link fence after he danced with Kat. And wait, hold on, real quick. Did anybody else, when seeing this for the first time, think that this lady was the same girl he danced with in junior high? Like, for real, it took like 4 watch-throughs of this movie for me to realize that this is some other random lady he meets later. And I'm not gonna act like I know better than Stephen King, but here it goes. I think they should have grown up to be together. I think he should have grown up to marry Kat McCoy. And that's my 2 cents. This is a good chance to really quickly talk about the performance of Koryanka Kilcher here. Her scenes in this, like others, are played with such beautiful, quiet grace that just fills me with empathy. Like, the amount of grace and dignity it takes to say this.
It's okay, honey. You go on. You go on ahead, okay?
And then the way she performs this scene, like...
Oh my. A man of secrets, even still. What happened, love?
It's the quietest yet most beautiful performance in the movie, and I think it's worth mentioning. So there, mentioned. Marty comes by and ensures himself a place in Chuck's mind prison forever. Then Chuck goes outside and dances like I do when I hear the McRib is back. And he says one of my favorite lines in the movie.
The universe is large, and it contains multitudes, but it also contains me. And in this moment, I am wonderful. And I have a right to be wonderful.
And right as he finishes this thought, he twirls and spins his hand right onto the sharp chain link fence. And Mike Flanagan, his love of hand gore continues to stress me the hell out. I sure hope he's got all his shots. And Koryanka Kilcher continues to melt my heart with...
You're a strange wonder, my dear.
Come here. Come here. Lay down. Lay down. Down. Come on, lay down. You gonna be on camera? You gonna lay down. Come here. Oh, on that side? Okay, you could be on that side. And you're still a good puppy. Okay. You're a good puppy. But you're a good puppy. Yeah. We are zoomed 5 years down the road where Zadie wraps up a long night of math and fucking dies in the living room. What the fuck?
Chuck's grandpa, his Zadie, died of a heart attack 5 years after the fall fling dance. Chuck was a junior in high school, singing in a band and dancing like Jagger during the instrumental breaks.
Sam Yarborough, who we know from Chuck's mind prison in Act 3, explains to Chuck that just before his Zadie died, he had come up into the funeral home and paid everything up and made sure his arrangements were made for his upcoming death. Now, here's where we get a connection to The Shining. I think Chuck's Zadie had some of the shine. Like, as you may know, having the shine is not an on-off switch. It's mentioned in The Shining and in other King's work that a lot of people have the shine. Like when a man buys flowers for his wife after just intuiting that she's not having a good day or she's, you know, it's that time of the month. I think that Zadie had a little bit of this shine, and that's why he was so good at the maths he did. It's the only explanation I can come up with for doing math after pre-algebra. No, for real, he explains the way he does math in an artistic way. He's not just correctly doing math, he's saving people's lives. And I think that that kind of ability is The Shining. Because we're about to hear that there's another similar ability that Sam's about to explain that he knew someone with the shine. I'm getting ahead of myself. But here's another piece to back it up. A lot of people who have the shine end up being drunks. Beer, 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 beer. Because drinking dulls it. And a lot of people find it can be torturous to have the shine. It's not really like a superpower. Jack Torrance in The Shining, Daniel Torrance in Dr. Sleep, and I think Zadie has some of that shine too, and I think that's why he drinks. He even saved this funeral business more than once when the tax man was after them.
And saved our skin more than once when the tax man was coming.
Well, maybe pay your taxes, Sam. He goes into the story about a weatherman he knew who also clearly had some shine. The guy would know storms were coming up weeks before the radars would. And he'd get this like knowing look in his face, a weatherman's stare, the shine. Whenever people would tell him that they were gonna go on a trip and he knew something that they didn't, he would just get that look. And Zadie had that same weatherman's stare when he last saw him. I'm telling you, Grandpa's shiny. Mark it down on the shiny calendar. It's over there, you can't see it, but there's a whole, it's like It's Always Sunny thing. There's string and there's maps. Chuck is now living in his grandparents' house where he opens up an envelope containing his Zadie's belongings. Among them is a watch we've seen throughout the whole movie, the pipe we saw Sam banging against the curb in Act 3, and the wedding ring that Chuck will go on to wear later in life. But also among these items are the keys to the cupola. Chuck finally goes up to the cupola and opens it. And we finally get to see what's in it. It's just a room. Chuck walks in and gets to see the view from the window, and it's an unspectacular one. And like Zadie said, all you can really see is the mall. Chuck turns around to leave, and before he closes the door, it happens. He hears a bipping heart rate monitor. He turns around to see himself lying in a hospital bed. We know it's him as we see the scar in Zadie's wedding ring. And just like that, it's gone. It doesn't fade away. It doesn't slowly disappear like in some movies. It's sort of like it's there one frame and gone the next. And Chuck just saw his death. And in an act of either denial or defiance of death, he says some powerful words that I think we all need to hear.
And I will live my life till my life runs out. I am wonderful. I deserve to be wonderful. And I contain multitudes.
He turns around and leaves so that he can live his life until his life runs out. As Philip Glass plays a rendition of The Parting Glass, we're left with this contemplative shot of the cupola. So one day in 2019, Stephen King was out for a walk around his neighborhood when he was reminded of this African proverb.
And this one is eating the poo-poo.
No, not that one. The one he was thinking of is every time a man dies, a library burns down. And he got to thinking how he himself was getting on in years. I mean, hey, it could be worse. You could look like John Carpenter, who has looked 83 since he was 8. Do you need proof? Here's a 3rd grade photo of John Carpenter. That led him to thinking about Walt Whitman's Song of Myself, which has the line that we're all now very familiar with.
Very well, then I contradict myself. I am large. I contain multitudes.
And King thought, well, what if it isn't a library that burns down, but an entire universe? He wrote this quick treatment for it, and he just kind of hucked it into a drawer, thinking he'd probably rewrite it somewhere down the line. Fast forward about a month, and old Steve here is in Boston catching a few Red Sox games. He's taking a walk down Boston's Boylston Street when he sees a drummer busking, and that's where the idea hit him. What if some stuffy ass businessman just started dancing to it? Like seriously dancing his ass off. Oh, and what if this guy was named Charles Krantz, whose brain tumor is just about to announce itself? But what if we were to trace this guy's inner life? What are the hidden depths of this Mr. Business suit? If you've read some King before, you know that there's some classic Stephen King tropes here. Like how even when he's trying to write something uplifting or like a coming of age story, he can't help but write small amounts of horror. Like remember in The Body, which was eventually turned into Stand By Me, when Gordy LaChance sees his dead brother's decomposing body in the bedroom, like floating there and shit. And he's like, it's all your fault, Gordy. That wasn't in the movie, but it was in the novella. I don't know. It's been a few years since I've read it. I might be forgetting. But even here in the life of Chuck, we have this life-affirming story about dancing and joy and love, and there's a haunted cupola in which you will see your own death and the death of others and those you love. Jesus, Stephen. Another thing I learned reading this is that some of King's best work comes from his novellas. I don't know, maybe I was just closed-minded, but I always saw novellas as like less than, when in reality, they're really cool ways for authors to explore style and framing, like reversing act structure, without committing to a complete novel. Some other great King novellas are like Apt Pupil, The Body, Hearts in Atlantis, The Langoliers, The Mist, Mr. Harrigan's Phone, Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption, Secret Window, Secret Garden, 1922, Riding the Bullet, In the Tall Grass, The Dolan's Cadillac, and Low Men in Yellow Coats. I don't really know where to fit this next section, so I'm just gonna put it here. I wanted to talk about the differences between the novella and the movie. I'm not gonna list every difference here, just the ones that I found worthy of mentioning. One of the most effective changes that Mike Flanagan makes is when to reveal certain things. For instance, in the novella, it's fairly obvious about halfway into the third act, which remember is the first, what's going on. It's clear by the time we see his son talking to his uncle over Charles's dying body in the hospital. That's halfway through the third act, the first act we're presented. In the movie, that would have taken place like 15 minutes in or something. And that having that reveal that early would have taken away so much of the impact. So little decisions like that, Mike Flanagan really made the right choice. In the book, Marty Anderson is teaching his students the Red Badge of Courage, which I don't really know very much about. I don't know if it has anything to do with the story of the life of Chuck. But in the movie, he's doing Carl Sagan's Cosmos, which is way more relevant to our story being told here. And of course, it comes back throughout the story. In the book, by the time Felicia calls Marty, cell phone reception has already been shot, so they converse over landlines instead. But in the movie, she calls Marty by cell phone from her landline, which tells us that cell reception is at least partially working at this point in the adaptation. Another difference in the book is that Marty is a little bitch who lets his ex-wife tell him not to drink. She successfully talks him out of switching from liquor to beer. But instead in the movie, he's like, don't tell me how to live my life, woman. The conversation between Marty and Gus Wilfong, in the novella, it takes place while Marty sits in his car. In the movie, it takes place outside of the car while they kind of just sit and talk for obvious reasons. It's easier to film, it's more interesting. In the book, Marty's motivations for going over to Felicia's are different than, and actually better than what we get in the movie. In the book, after talking to Gus, Marty says, screw it, and just goes back to bed and sleeps most of the day away. He wakes up that evening thinking about what Gus told him and how it's all about to end. And he wants to spend that last moment with Felicia. He wants to go over there and spend the night even. Maybe even get laid. In the film, he just seems prompted by the fact that cell service goes out while trying to call her. If anything, he seems more concerned for her safety than he is missing her on an emotional level. And I think that motivation that we get in the book is better. In the book, Marty calls this little girl on roller skates fucking Pop It. What the fuck, Steve? Steve does this a lot. Steve uses the word Pop It a lot as like a endearing term for little girls. It's weird and I don't like it. And he does it here too, and it doesn't fit the character or the conversation or anything. It's weird and I don't like it. Stop, Steve, stop. Go ahead and stop. In the movie, after Felicia says, it's almost, there's an entire missing scene. And I guess I can see why it was omitted. It's not the most important thing. But when you love a movie, you don't mind spending as much time in that universe as possible because you love the movie. That's why people don't care that The Godfather is 3 hours and 15 minutes, because it fucking rules, dude. It's a scene where Brian, who is the son of Chuck and Ginny, talks with his uncle, who is Ginny's brother, about the unfairness of life and death. Ultimately, the scene doesn't really do anything to move the plot forward, and all it really does is reveal what's going on earlier. And like I just said, Mike Flanagan's choice to save that for a little later was much better. The train set that we see young Chuck playing with at the beginning of Act 1 is sort of mentioned, so you see it kind of make a comeback. Well, it's mentioned that Grandpa is really into train sets in the novella, and then in the movie, we see him having a train set. The main reason why this scene was cut from the film and probably should have been altered or cut from the book is that the uncle here pretty much explains the entire hook of the movie. Stephen King didn't really treat the thought that this was all happening in Chuck's inner universe as a reveal. It was just a plot point. The scene also unnecessarily interrupts this beautiful moment between Marty and Felicia. So the more I think about it, the more I don't hate the scene, but for movie purposes, I'm glad it's gone. Telling a story in the medium of a book and telling the story in the medium of a movie, those are two different storytelling avenues, and you gotta treat them differently. That's why a lot of times when you see books that are directly adapted into movies, they end up being so boring because what's exciting in a book is not necessarily exciting in a movie. In Act 2 in the book, the busking / dance scene takes place in downtown Boston, the same place where King was struck with the idea for the story. In the movie, it's set somewhere pretty non-specific. It really looks just like town USA. One of Mike Flanagan's strengths is in casting. In the book, the drummer is named Jared and is a male, but Pocket Queen was best for the part, so she got the part, and thank God she did. In the book, we're given a lot more context for how and why he dances with little sister, the redheaded lady. We're told that Chuck used to play in a cover band in high school called the Retros, and that the little sister of one of the bandmates would always talk shit during their practices and telling Chuck shit like, "You dance like a white guy." The fact that we're not given this context works for me in the context of the movie because it makes this interaction between Chuck and little sister feel so much more spontaneous. Not everything needs to be explained. In the book, Zadie is a beer man, but in the movie, he's a booze man. I don't know if that matters, but now you know it. I know it, and now you know it. Act 1 is a pretty literal adaptation of the book. In the movie, they're watching Cosmos, which is brought back in Act 3, but in the book, it's a Red Sox game. Sexy grandma sends grandpa to the store for milk and Apple Jacks, but in the movie, it's for pancake mix.
You ain't got no pancake mix.
In the book, grandpa's a huge homophobe, and he says that
the gay community
are turning America pink and ruining it. Look, there's not a lot of interesting changes in this act, okay? Like, there's Apple Jacks and there's hateful grandpa. Oh, hey, in the book, Bubby and Zadie own a shoe store. But in the movie, Zadie's an accountant, which is way more relevant to the story. Good change. Good change. And that's really the last change that the movie made to the book that's relevant, you know, or important. One of my favorite things about this adaptation is how literal it is. There are storytelling tactics that work in books that don't in film, and Mike Flanagan really understands this, and it's why he and King keep working together. I just think it's so cool, like how one guy got up one morning and decided to do some busk drumming in Boston. He sets up in a spot that would put him within earshot of Stephen King, which would then trigger him to finish his novella. And he's already got a working relationship with Mike Flanagan, who then reads it.
He's able to take the story and develop it in a way that doesn't fix it. He's able to respect the material in a way that keeps him from getting too cute with it. He's great at what he does.
And then makes it, and then I see it, and I'm struck by it. And then I work with my viewers on Twitch to make a video about it, and now you're here watching it. None of that would have happened if this one drummer didn't wake up that day and go, I need to pay rent, let's go busking. The first thing you should know about Song of Myself is that there's a ton of versions of this poem. Yeah, it was originally published in 1855 as part of his collection Leaves of Grass, but underwent a handful of rewrites before we got the deathbed edition that Whitman wrote, well, you know. But the version we're going to be going with is the original, untitled, and shortest version. Because as the poem evolves, it became a little less relevant to the life of Chuck. A later edition of the poem was titled Poem of Walt Whitman, an American, which is really telling in terms of how the poem evolved. The untitled first version is really about the self. It's very personal and very like hot. And the deathbed edition is more about the American spirit. So the OG version really fits us best. And don't worry, I'm not going to make you sit here as I read the whole thing out. I have resources for that in the description of this video. The most important part, obviously, is the part we hear at the very beginning of the film. Expertly read by, oh, here we go again, I'm going to mess this up, Sarian Sapkota. I'm sorry, dog, you deserve better than that. Because seriously, I've never heard someone read poetry that got my attention this way. It ruled. The I Contain Multitudes was the genesis of our movie, and we all do. We're not one thing. You know, you are not your addictions, your past, or the mistakes you've made. We are large. We contain multitudes. Walt Whitman reminds us that every individual contains a unique universe, and while each is unique, it's also inseparable from the experience of others. That reminder is what struck me and so many others in a profound way, and it's a great reminder. Remember when I said that this poem was hot? Yeah, with lines like,
"It is for my mouth forever. I am in love with it. I will go to the bank by the wood and become undisguised and naked. I am mad for it to be in contact with me."
Dude was horny, and that pissed off conservatives at the time. Like, how dare you celebrate the flesh and the desires of the flesh? This doesn't glorify God.
He mocks God! He mocks God!
This line in particular stood out to me.
I, now 37 years old, in perfect health, begin, hoping to cease not till death.
Because I discovered this poem and the story in the movie while I myself am 37 and am in good health. It feels like this was written for people at my stage of life. I relate immensely to this. Not only was it really horny, it was also pretty gay.
I'm homosexual.
Walt was all about doing what felt good. And sometimes that meant, that meant getting naked and putting his pud in the dirt. And sometimes that meant kissing some dudes. Even the point of view that the poem was told from was considered scandalous in its day. Popular poetry of the time didn't really speak too often in the self-celebrating sense. Stuff that came before it, like Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner or Childe Harold's Pilgrimage, for example, did not do this. He starts the poem with,
"I celebrate myself, and what I assume, you shall assume. For every atom belonging to me, as good belongs to you. I loaf and invite my soul. I lean and loaf at my ease."
It's I, and I celebrate myself. I loaf and invite my soul, meaning like I chill. I'm just posted, and I invite my soul to come chill too. I lean and loaf at my ease, observing a spear of summer grass. The dude was chillin', and I respect him for it immensely. The Life of Chuck is also a celebration of the individual, the everyman. It explores the inner universe inside us, and like Song of Myself, it reminds us that death is not to be feared. The Life of Chuck and Song of Myself are both about finding meaning in existence by recognizing the beauty and the value of a single human life, while also seeing that life as part of something much larger, this shared, interconnected universe. You see how it inspired King to write this novella. They're very related. I want to take a second to thank Benjamin McAvoy, who, man, the dude understands poetry, let me tell you. And he can help you understand poetry too by subscribing to his YouTube channel. His video on how to read the poetry of Walt Whitman, it might have changed me, like forever, because it opened up Walt Whitman to me, and that changed me. If you found our very surface level look at Song of Myself interesting, watch Benjamin's video in its entirety. I did about 10 times in preparation for this video. In fact, all the resources I used to research are in the description of this video, including AI disclosure and stuff like that. Remember how at the top of the video, I described this movie as special? And remember how Taylor Gordon also said that she felt that this was special?
Yeah. You can already tell this is extremely special. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is not normal.
Well, all of these people also describe this as special. And I think I know why that is. It's because these three men managed to capture pure joy in their respective mediums. And it starts with Walt Whitman. Walt, we're on a first name basis, gave us some of the most life-affirming and self-affirming poetry in existence. Reading it and understanding it puts you in a place of optimism and joy. And that's it. That's the essence of this whole thing. The whole reason I'm doing this video and I'm wanting others to understand it is because it helped me identify and understand and crave real joy. Before I end this section, I want to show my current favorite section of the poem. It's from the very end, and it really exemplifies what makes Whitman's poetry so special.
I depart as air. I shake my white locks at the runaway sun. I effuse my flesh in eddies and drift it in lacy jags. I bequeath myself to the dirt to grow from the grass I love. If you want me again, Look for me under your boot soles. You will hardly know who I am or what I mean, but I shall be good health to you nevertheless, and filter and fiber your blood. Failing to fetch me at first, keep encouraged. Missing me one place, search another. I stop somewhere, waiting for you.
So if you, like me, were pretty ignorant of Walt Whitman's work, please listen to this 25-minute reading by Crazy Dog Audio on YouTube, or buy a copy of Leaves of Grass, and take time to study Song of Myself the way someone would study scripture. It might really bring you some perspective and some peace in stressful times. To wrap this up, the life of Chuck showed me that the things that I love most in life are the things that give me real joy. What makes Life of Chuck so special is that it nails what life affirming is. Let's talk a little bit about that. Life affirming is something that gives you hope or optimism and reminds you that life has value, and promotes finding joy in existence by embracing the good and bad. Joy is what happens when you experience life affirming things. Am I just making this whole video because I just discovered the meaning of life affirming and I thought it was neat? Well, can't back out now. By capturing what life affirming means in their respective mediums, the team of Walt Whitman, Stephen King, and Mike Flanagan all helped me realize that it's all about joy. Joy through connection with nature, joy through human connection, and joy through connection with the universe. Both the one around you and the one inside you. Oh, and the Newton brothers, who put that amazing score over what Mike Flanagan put over what Stephen King made over Walt Whitman's poem. Release it on vinyl. And that's about it, guys. If you liked this video, please subscribe. I'd love to keep doing it, and I think I can get better at it. So if you like the vibes and you definitely think this is something you want to hear more of, please follow, and also follow me over on Patreon. Be my first Patreon member. And also, we're live on Twitch every single day. Been live every day since 2021, and I'd love to have you there as a part of it. www.twitch.tv/NickyJamesTV. And that's it, guys. I hope you can find some joy out there. Until next time.